Susan has been president and CEO of the Mississippi Children's Museum since 2008 and was responsible for successfully completing and administrating a $26.6 million capital campaign that realized the dream of a 40,000 square foot children's museum in Jackson, Mississippi. Under her leadership, the museum was awarded the Kids Count Program of Promise Award, the Mississippi Tourism Association's Attraction of the Year Award in 2011, and was a finalist for the National Medal for the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And I was telling Susan and Jill before we popped on that my children have spent countless hours in that Mississippi Children's Museum. It is amazing. So if you're ever in the Jackson, Mississippi area, I encourage you to stop in and say hello and just visit the museum. It is truly something to be seen. Truly a pioneer in her field, Susan has received numerous accolades and nominations on a local, regional, and national level. We are thrilled she is with us today. Susan, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, because I really appreciate being here. This, just as you said, is so new for all of us. Even to present, I've been to hundreds of conferences and spoken to many, many conferences and retreats, and this is the first time that I've done this sort of presentation online. So this is new for me too. I am used to having sort of the feedback and just the warm exchanges, and so I hope today that if folks have questions, if they have anything, just to be casual and to put it in the chat, and I'll try to respond as quickly as possible. As Kristen mentioned, we are in Jackson, Mississippi. Our home base is here, but we serve children statewide and visitors from all over the country. So for an organization who really thrives on hands-on experiences and obviously operating revenue, the pandemic has offered a real challenge this year. And so I really thought, when I thought about what I would share today, I wanted to just share sort of our journey over the last few months and some real tangible examples of things that we've done, of future plans and strategic plans that we have done here at the Mississippi Children's Museum that because they're pragmatic and they're tangible, and just some things that your organizations may want to consider. There, my great team, marketing team, there's a picture of the museum in sunnier days, and just facing in our pollinators garden here in Jackson. We, just as Kristen mentioned, we have won many accolades for the museum. We're very proud to have been recognized by our statewide media as for the past 5 years as the best museum in Mississippi. So we do encourage folks to visit. We're also equally proud of a designation that probably many of you are very familiar with, Charity Navigator for fiscal stewardship. That is one of our core operating values, is to be good fiscal stewards. So we're very proud of having been the #1 nonprofit in Mississippi for fiscal stewardship in 2019. When the pandemic first started in March, along with several of you, we had a lot of really, really difficult decisions to make. Many museums around the country were closing and furloughing employees. But that third week of March, just looking back, we had some really amazingly challenging decisions to make, especially as an organization who derived about 75 to 80% of their income from operating missions, memberships, program sponsorships, all the things that you do when you are the state's largest cultural institution. So we are a new organization. Our museum just opened in 2010, and so we didn't have a large endowment. We don't get state, local, or city support, operating support. So we really did. We had some tough decisions to make, but we decided we wanted to keep meeting, and it was more important than ever to keep meeting our mission to reach children and families in our state, which historically has the most underserved children in our nation, and we do a lot of work with those children and families. And so we wanted to continue, particularly during a time of national crisis and a crisis in our state. So we did make the decision to close, and we closed the museum, but decided that we would continue producing resources for our statewide community. And so we created an online portal called MCM at Home, and we work with a lot of teachers and early childhood providers and of course children and parents, and created an online portal called MCM at Home. And we've never done a lot of virtual learning and a lot of taping and filming. So as you can see, some of my education team, one of my assistant directors there is covered in bubbles. Some of our experiments went awry, but now almost 1 million people. Our total reach during those first 3 months was around 279,000 people and views, and people using our experiments and ideas from all over our state. So it was definitely it definitely was a new thing, but a very successful thing. And again, that platform now has lots of ideas and activities on our website. We also have a couple of events that we had to reimagine and transform. The Mississippi Children's Museum piloted several years ago in 2014 the Mississippi Science Fest, and that has grown now to include all 4 museums in the LaFleur Museum District in Jackson. And we transformed that event to be a virtual event where folks could have activity kits, and we did almost 60 virtual videos with different other institutions from all over the state and nation, actually. And we delivered about 450 kits to children who maybe were not going to have an opportunity or maybe didn't have Wi-Fi to participate. So just an example of how we transformed an event that had been in person, that had won Festival of the Year for several thousand, 6,000 to 7,000 people, to a virtual, and we didn't lose any sponsors, so that was a success. Another, just a straight fundraiser that we do here at the museum, is a family fundraiser. Typically sees around 600 different attendees each year. It's called Discovery Night. And we reimagined this event to be virtual, and also have a little bit of an in-person pickup for their activity kits. And we paired this really fun. We had some great restaurants that made cocktail kits that parents could do, like science experiments, and the parents picked up an activity kit and the children picked up an activity kit. One of our most successful fundraisers. So a lot of fun, a great reimagined event. And again, we were able to keep all of our corporate sponsors and all of our host families, and also just a lot of fun with a real engaged volunteer base. And one of the most meaningful ways that we have reimagined ourselves and made transitions during this pandemic, and really meeting our mission, is we have created a framework at the museum. We decided as we got ready for the fall school district, our largest state schools, our state's largest school district, Jackson Public Schools, decided not to go back. They were only going to do virtual learning. Well, we knew, because of our program work, that there were children in our city and in the surrounding areas who would have a very difficult time with this, because they didn't own devices, they didn't have good, adequate Wi-Fi. And think of the technology issues that we've all faced, just even making a presentation like today, that these children would be facing a virtual world, many of them at home alone because their parents were essential workers or had to go back to work. So we launched Launch Into Learning, and today we have children kindergarten through 6th grade at the museum in pods of 10 doing their virtual work with tutors and with after school care. And so many of the children are with us from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30 in the afternoon, and get to do fun science experiments and in the museum, and have had an amazing experience. And some of the quotes that parents have shared made us know that we were right to take the risk to lean in. We did have to close our museum Monday through Friday to the general public, so we are having to make some adjustments in our operating, but we are meeting our mission, and we're able to get this program funded. And then we open back to the public Saturday and Sunday, just regular museum, go back to being a museum Saturday and Sunday, starting at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. Another way that we really use to maybe promote all of our partners and all of our program partners and all of our collaborators and our donors, and also focus activities for children to go statewide. We produced 2 different publications since March called The Playbook. This publication has won an award. We're very proud of it. And the first edition was we basically, when does this end? The children asking that question, when does this pandemic end? We had activities, answers from experts, and we paired it with a social media campaign. Our second issue was about quest for innovation, really thinking about the pandemic differently, like what was invented and what kind of innovations happened after the last pandemic of 1918, and what did we learn from that, and who are our next innovators and inventors going to be? And we highlighted those people, particularly across our region, who are really making innovations to help us meet the needs in our community during the pandemic. We printed over 161,000 copies, distributed them statewide and newspapers across the state, as well as school districts and pediatricians' offices. So a very successful adventure. And again, great feedback from across the state. One of the quotes that you see is actually a professor I found out at the state's largest institution, Mississippi State University. And so it really was high praise that he said that they were lucky to have us in their state. So as an organization, even though the playbooks were expensive, we feel like we made a lot of new relationships. Again, social media and live stream education videos. This was another way we paired all of these different things that we're doing. We had a social media content plan that we did just with this. And this, we have increased our social media presence of 7%. So again, building, even though this pandemic has been really a challenge, we have been able to stretch and find new muscles during this time. And always, I think as organizations and as nonprofits, I think it's important for us to use time and the things that, times like this, we really leaned into our strategic planning and begin to focus on future projects. We know this time won't last forever, and we're not exactly sure what we're going to look like when we come out of this particular challenge. But what can we imagine, and what can we plan for the future? One thing that we're doing right now is we're building a new museum. That was already in the works. We were already planning that, but we were right in the middle of a construction project when the pandemic happened. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Meridian, Mississippi. It's a community of around, it has about a 5-county service area. It's kind of a medical hub in East Mississippi on the I-20 corridor headed toward Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. And we decided about 3 years ago to start this in full speed ahead. And so we were in the middle of a construction project. Thankfully, we haven't been impacted in construction, and hopefully we will open next year. But we were able, because of the pandemic to really focus new ideas on some new exhibit ideas that we wanted to do. One issue that's really important to us that I get a chance to even advocate for today is that sleep. And so we got one of the first. We will have a Good Night Moon exhibit, and the whole exhibit will showcase and be an exact replica of the childhood book, Good Night Moon. And we're really excited about this as a way to show how sleep connects to brain development. It's also, obesity is such a challenge in our state and relates to so many health issues as we're seeing now. And sleep can really be an important to preventing childhood obesity. Many times children who are obese are eating carbohydrates that just to try to stay awake because they haven't gotten enough sleep the night before. So there's some pretty significant research happening. So we're super excited about using Good Night Moon for this new advocacy. We also have, and this is difficult to see on the slide, but this is a conceptual drawing for our new makerspace that connects us to those creators and inventors and innovators that I got a chance to talk about a little bit earlier with our playbook issue. You can see very faintly the Peavey guitar. Meridian, Mississippi, Peavey Electronics did some of the best rock guitar amplifiers and guitars in the world. So those of you who are music folks can check that out. Here in Jackson, we are part of a museum district. We intentionally built the Mississippi Children's Museum to be close to our neighbors, and right now we are looking at building, along with our neighbor, the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science, a future plan. You're looking at an image, a master plan of what we hope the Mississippi Children's Museum should be in your left-hand corner, that green L or backwards L at the top of your page, and then the Mississippi Museum of Natural Science, another great institution to the right. And we are hopeful to build a state-of-the-art playground, handicap accessible playground between us, and create a new beautiful green space for visitors from around the country. And just some images of that. We're still in the planning phase, so this time has given us time to think and plan for the future, and how we maybe better connect, and how outdoor spaces are becoming really, really important. And so we have envisioned the museum to museum trail that will better connect the museum with some educational stops along the way. And so we're really excited about this project, and are hoping to fully fund it this year. And we know outdoor play, we've seen during the pandemic that outdoor play and having spaces for outdoor are very, very important. We're this 21st century playground that I had mentioned, just a super state-of-the-art, one of the first pieces. The Hedra Towers are there's only one other playground in the country that has done these, and so we're really excited about the opportunity to bring this to Mississippi and to bring this to the Southeast, where our children, we think, deserve the best too. We're going to build an outdoor classroom and pavilion space, again, so that we can enjoy outdoors and have places that encourage, again, for health reasons, more outdoor use and trails and walking and getting folks outside with activity. And finally, our museum's success has really been based on making partners and trying to listen and be a good partner and collaborator on how we're not necessarily the experts in everything. One of our most steadfast and longstanding collaboration has been with the Barksdale Reading Institute. They really advocate for literacy, early childhood literacy, language development, and then their most important initiative, which is promoting the science of teaching reading, that there really is the science of being able to teach a child to read. And they do tremendous work all over our state, training teachers. And so we are hopeful in the future and have gone through a feasibility study just in the last few weeks of imagining what would a center for teaching and learning early childhood and elementary teachers, what would that look like? And what would a demonstration classroom look like? And how can we prepare a workforce of teachers for the future to overcome systemic challenges in our state, particularly in literacy? The children of Mississippi are typically on the bottom of literacy in the United States, and so we are very fortunate to be working with basically subject area experts as we create a new Center for Teaching and Learning, and hopefully be able to report on that soon. And I'm going to open up the floor. I have talked a lot. Again, these Zoom presentations are really difficult because you don't have the interaction of everybody, and I'm probably talking really, really quickly and hard to gauge how quickly I'm going. I know I've given a lot of information about a lot of different things that we've done. So I'd love to answer any questions anyone might have.
Well, it was just fascinating to learn even so much more than, I see everything when I took my children. I see everything from the front end. So learning so much more about the back end is just it just adds that next level of amazing to all that you've done and all your staff has done. It truly is fantastic. And the new museum coming in, it sounds wonderful. So we're going to have to make a trip over to see it. But at this time, we'd love to answer any questions. I can get them out of the Q&A. You can post any questions, comments in the chat. We'd love, I think Susan would love to answer some questions and just have some interaction. So feel free to post your questions in there. So I want to talk a little bit about the challenges you faced. And so what were some of the platforms that you and your staff used for the virtual education pieces? What did you find the easiest? What did you find the most difficult, challenging? And were people doing it from their home, or did they come into the museum?
We had everyone that could work from home for the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then we brought back kind of more of a skeleton crew. Some of us have never left. I've never left my office since March. I'm just kidding. but that we did. We gradually brought folks back. We used Zoom, obviously some, but for our virtual programs, and we use Facebook Live and Instagram and Reels. We found our team really enjoys doing the short Instagram Reels and Facebook Live both. They've enjoyed that, as well as we have found out we've got some fairly talented folks who can do some videos, and so we've learned, and it really was trial and error. You can almost see our transition from when we first started in March. Our videos don't look that professional, and then now our videos look so much more professional. The sound is so much better, but I don't think we would have, without that hands-on learning. We always promote it for children, but without that hands-on learning ourselves, I don't think we would have learned as much about how to push ourselves to be part of the virtual world. So I think it's almost like necessity made us do some of these things. So, yeah.
Well, and it gives you so much to build on and to learn on for the future. So you're not just in museum, you can have this interactive now and expand it so much, state and even nationwide. You truly are a model for museums, and so they can come in and watch that. That is so much fun, though. I bet it was fun to be in the bubbles and do all those experiences.
It really is. It really is. Although I will tell you, sometimes if you're doing things live, sometimes they don't always go. Just quite like you planned them to. So
yes, we understand that.
Exactly. It doesn't always go exactly like you planned, but I do think it's really. I would just also challenge. I think during this time, we also ended up asking for help more than we normally would. And I think sometimes before we were not as likely to just reach out to other organizations, to other nonprofits, to other museums, to our university medical center, to other people and say, we don't understand this. We don't have a mic.
Right.
We need a subject area expert for something that we might be doing. And so it really pushed us to reach out. So that's been something I think we've also learned during this time. And one thing I didn't mention that I should have mentioned really early on when I first started was how much in the inception of our museum back in 2005 and 6, the Louisiana Children's Museum was very gracious to our museum, invited our board down. I think we had a retreat at the Louisiana Children's Museum in 2007 or 8, and we were so inspired by how they went outside their box during Katrina, and reached out to children in some of the parishes around New Orleans and brought materials to them. So from the very beginning, we've had other folks in other states who've inspired us with their work, which helped us frame our work during a crisis.
Well, and I think that is something that we all are learning, and I hate to say it's a learning experience, but crisis brings collaboration, and it brings everyone together in ways that you don't expect, even in small ways. Reaching out to friends to help you with mic or sound issues or video or anything like that. I mean, it's just things you don't think about, and I think this year, for Mississippi and Louisiana, with the hurricanes, back to back. It didn't just affect Louisiana. Mississippi was impacted as well. And so having those type of relationships and partnerships, I think have helped across the board. So, I just really appreciate you being here. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up the session. Thank you so much, Susan. It was a pleasure. Thanks for sharing everything.
Thank you. I hope y'all have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you so much.